Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Into the Score. My name is Avishai Darash. I'm your host for this podcast. And yes, I have a mustache. You are correct. In the podcast, we talk to very interesting people about anything that comes in between art, culture, entrepreneurship, sometimes day-to-day politics, but everything that makes the individual tick. And today, I have the honor and the privilege to have with me here in the studio, Mia Knop Jacobsen. I said
well
it correctly.
done, you said it perfectly.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Mia, tell me your story. Take me from the beginning.
Oh, God. I'm going to start with art because that's the easiest introduction, right?
Go for it. Yeah.
So I'm a musician, and I say musician because I'm a vocalist, composer, creator on multiple levels. So I like to actually put it under the frame of musicianship. But did the whole voice thing from a very early age on. Like it's this. Originally, I'm from Denmark, and back then there's this recording of me when I was super tiny. I couldn't really speak, but already singing, like the stereotype of like, oh, my child sang before she spoke, seems to actually be true. And I was kind of like, it's a little cringe, but my mom loves to share it. And I think there was something that became very clear in the very beginning that this is a little bit the tool that they have to feed me to start growing, you know? And so I dived into the whole world of music and also theater. Then as a younger child, I did theater for 12 years in total. I started when I was 8 and I finished when I was 20. I did this in Germany though, because originally from Denmark, my parents moved to eastern part of this wonderful, huge, diverse, complicated country. And so I grew up as a Dane, free spirit Dane, in East Germany, very close to Berlin, so which was an experience in itself. Did the whole German military school and everything, you know, and then went back to Denmark, back to Berlin, and now I'm like a full-time traveler, musician, creator, chaos seeker, chaos maker, and enjoying life as much as I can, and freaking out about it as well. So
how was it, like, because I want to touch on that. How was that being Danish? You said like free-spirited, but then Eastern Berlin.
It was pretty intense. I mean, okay, it was intense because it's like, it's what happens is when they hear, oh, she's from Denmark, everybody always is like, oh yeah, oh, she's like loaded with money and everything is privileged. It's like, and it's kind of interesting because like it's a little bit funny that you have to defend it from the other side. It's like when someone is from a poorer country and you say they're from there, everybody thinks you're poor, and vice versa with Denmark. So what happened in our case is like, I didn't grow up with this privilege. I actually grew up in very unstable and very harsh financial situations in that sense. So being from Denmark, moving to East Germany was definitely a little bit of a culture clash because despite the fact that it obviously put my family some sort back on the feet for a second again, it's also probably the most extreme ways of being. Like in Denmark, everything is very like, you know, it's like, hi, and everything is actually very nice and very uncomplicated, and people interact with each other and they're nice. And then you come to East Germany where it's a different case in the sense of like the very first encounters can seem very distant. But the stereotype is, and it's true, like it takes a while before you really arrive and East German's hard. But once you do, these are going to be the warriors for life, like no doubt, through everything. So my all-time longest best friends are East Germans, and they're like children of people who came, like who did the whole GDR experience. So all of that is also part of my experience. But then I come with this Denmark northern kind of free-spirited, but at the same time, very world open as well, very international as well into this part of Germany. So it has always been interesting, but also kind of like conflicting at the same time. Like at home it was very Danish, and then once you get out, you had to switch and become German functioning. And
what does that mean at home? It was very Danish. In which way? Well, how was it expressed? Like,
well, it's like it's traditions. It's small things. The food we ate, the traditions that my family brought from Denmark, which are very different to Germany and very weird. Everything is very weird. We're like this little Smurf country of just like, you know, with our weird little
Smurf country.
Yeah, because it's just like, for me, it's always when people, it's like you should see our Christmas. It's insane because it's just like we're dancing around a Christmas tree holding hands, but it's literally the slowest dance that you can ever see. It's like tiny movements, but it became everybody has to do this.
But
with
like
grandma
really
with
slow?
like super slow.
Slow?
It's like the slowest dance you will ever see, and then everybody
And
sings.
there's someone playing a violin like...
No, but everybody sings, but it's always like...
okay.
"Mi ba na fu." So you're just like, where am I right now? So it's insanity.
Wow, it's like
But in slow
Midsommar.
motion.
Have you seen
So-
Midsommar, the film?
It's like that. It's like
Wow.
that. So this Danish thing is like...
And then
it's-
you open up someone and you hang them from the
yeah,
ceiling?
exactly. Not that crazy yet, but there's definitely always someone who, it's fun, but it became like small little things like this had to be repeated at home in East Germany. So you're just like, not weird at all, you know? And when people came up, like sometimes people were coming over and got introduced to our traditions. I'm just like, what do you mean we have to hold hands and sing songs and dance around the Christmas tree? Like,
But it's not dancing, it's slowly strolling.
it's so crazy. For me, it's like if you would be jumping, at least that would be
Yeah.
fun. But it's a little bit like, it's kind of hard to dance slow, actually, and keep it's very important to hold hands. It's bizarre.
Bizarre.
So it's a little bit like funny, weird things like that.
So you had this, like, let's say, two identities almost, right? In
Yeah.
that sense. You had like the Danish one at home.
Yeah.
This.
A little bit like that. And then
And then
a little bit.
like outside.
It's like it's not that I'm not grateful for the experience, because also it's the only one I have, but it was weird for me because it's like, we came there in the late 90s and the wall came down like, what was it, a little under a decade ago, and you could still feel it. Like it wasn't that it wasn't, and still actually now, I mean, it's not that it ever really went away.
Yeah.
And a lot of people got lost after it came down. And a lot of these people who got lost in society in terms of never integrated, it's something that people don't really talk too much about, because it's like, hey, the wall was not supposed to be up in the first place.
Yeah.
But once it came down, what they forgot is about, like, you're trying to fuse two countries in the mentality. Like, and the GDR was a crazy place to be. It was communist. And then you have to figure out how these people who had jobs and an actual life, even though under communism, all of a sudden had to be figured into the rest of it. So my best friend, who I also met through theater, her parents were actually like kind of well functioning in the GDR. And once it came down, it just all broke and never recovered. And people are just, a little bit lost souls. And it's an interesting thing once you get out of your own bubble, because I was just like, I need to get the hell out of East Germany, because I was like, I'm Danish and I'm a musician, so I need like New York and Berlin and all this other stuff. Like I became very like me. But now that you're kind of trying to understand the different cultures that you experience, you also realize there's a very crazy history that East Germany has still, and probably always will carry through the generations that come after that, because it's just been, it's not always just been dictatorship and bad. A lot of people had a way better life and are facing a crisis that we have now in Germany. It's also based on, a lot of people say, it's because 20 years we had nothing, we can't survive. And once you start opening up to that...
There was no like integration programs from the government to be able to integrate these two very, very polarizing sides in that sense.
That's something you would think, and I think they were. I mean, I'm not a GDR expert in that sake, but like I also thought it was supposed to be dealt with this way. But then you realize, like, on paper it was, but in reality it just never really happened, because Germany was so busy trying to, recover from that era as well. And a lot of people did much better, but we still have a gap in Germany. Like, there's still better, higher paid in West Germany. Like, Berlin is still the poorest city, even though it's the coolest, so...
It's still the poorest city in Germany? Really?
In the sense of, like, one of the poorest in terms of income and, And now it's starting to be a turning point, because it still has this funkiness about it because of it, but at the same time the rents are going high, and it's a little bit of an unbalanced crisis happening at the moment. And
I mean, my brother lived in Berlin for 6 years, and I remember...
When was that?
He left in 2012, so it was 2006 till 2012 he lived there.
Yeah.
And I just remember, because I was in New York before that, and then I moved to Amsterdam, just the prices, I was shocked how low it was back then.
It was cheaper to go out to eat than to actually cook.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, we bought a pizza for like $5 and it was huge, and he lived in a beautiful apartment for like $400.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, but how does
Now,
it work?
in the last 3 years, the rents have gone up 70%.
Ooh,
We're reaching a point where it lost the control. It started
Yeah.
already in 2015.
yeah.
It was a good time when he was there, I think, and that's the Berlin. I kind of got the very last bit of. Or I moved there, also still very lucky and lived cheap, but got a little bit of the aftermath. Still a price like a efficient place.
Is it happening because because of the hype of Berlin that more people
Yeah.
are moving in, bringing foreign money, like
Exactly.
pumping?
But
the
it's also not
system?
controlled. So, you
Yeah.
could control the rents. You could kind of try and care for the city, but obviously it's like when you can raise a price for 70%, there's something wrong.
Within
you know?
1 year, it raised.
No, I think it was like 5 or in the last 3 they have compared, and it was
This is
already
crazy.
It was insane,
Yeah,
and a
it's
lot of
insane.
people move out of it because of it, and it's and again, I'm very lucky. I'm kind of like, but lucky means like I'm now in comparison to back then still living in a pricier apartment, but if you can find a 2-bedroom apartment under a K, it's basically super luck, and you will never find this on an official way. And not only to mention the fact, if you can pay what it costs to live in Berlin, like, and even if you could pay six grand for a rent, let's put it this way, you're still fighting with I don't know how many thousands of people who are applying. Like the craziest story I've heard is like for one apartment, 6,000 people are showing up. 6,000 to
people.
see the apartment, and you're just like, how, and waiting there because they have
What is the owner going to do? Like a version of the Hunger Games?
You know what I mean?
What is gonna
Exactly.
happen?
And it's insane. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit like, and who do they choose? It's like they all have the cash. So it's becoming very famous for being incredibly hard to find a place to stay. Like more than I think we can imagine, So in that sense, it's a little bit like I see the shift, and I personally like the internationality of Berlin, but I also understand that from the East, like the real Berliners from all the way back, that they have a little bit of sensation of like, what the hell? Like, really?
Yeah, the ones, the
You
real
know?
Berliners. Yeah, like what
Yeah.
happened to the city. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and also the country, and it's a very extreme
Why do you
time.
think that actually happens? Was it because of art, because of opportunities? Because I didn't get the feeling, at least as a musician, when I was there last time, it was many years ago, I didn't get the feeling that, let's say, the gigs pay really well or stuff like this. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong now, but
Well, in Berlin city in itself, no. Not unless you have like the good gigs that are like state funded and it's a festival or something. But what Berlin has is like it has this like it's this constant pulse. It's like one of the reasons why it's a love-hate relationship with this city is it's a little bit like New York. Like a lot of New Yorkers moved to Berlin for the sake. New York became too much and Berlin was the next New York or whatever they said,
Right.
And it's not because of anything, but it's like you have everything there. Like you have people who have a really, really good life, then you have the homeless that you always see in the same street. You have like all kinds of different extremes. And what happened is a lot of musicians and creative came there as well because education is free. So once the education system became a very strong thing for the scene and for culture, obviously free education with masterminds from the States became like, whoa, bingo, and a cheap place, and there's a lot of different cultures, so the food is very very diverse, etc., etc. And then because of that, the also like the quality of musicianship is just very high. Like I still know that when I'm traveling quite a bit, like there's just something that the people in Berlin do that people in New York do, and also in Sao Paulo, like these bigger places, just like you have no time to waste to like just sit there and be like, I don't know if I feel like it. It's like nobody cares if you feel like it. The next one is right behind you. So better do the job and do it fast.
Exactly.
To the better or worse,
Yeah,
and if you're a working musician, it's like you can be sure whoever you call will show up prepared. And if not, then they know that this will be
The last
detrimental
time,
and the
yeah.
last time. So better don't do that, And that part I always really liked. Because that gives you the space to create without being scared to explain, or if it's going to be like if people will be able to understand it. And it's you are as a band leader, you're always doing heavy lifting anyways. But if you don't have to explain yourself, especially when it comes to just how to do the job, then it really frees up a lot of space to just focus on the art. So, and that's not only for music. It's just what I loved about Berlin is like there's a scene for everything, like everything. The most kinky, crazy party stuff to the most nerdy technology. It's just everything is there. So the pulse of the city is like or the challenge is, who are you when everything is there, you know? And in my case, I studied jazz there, so I became very in the jazz world, and it's a very strong, it used to be a very strong government-funded or culture funded by the government setup as well. So one of the higher ones in Europe, I would say. Like everything is funded by something. And
You're talking about the Jazz Institute of Berlin?
No, just like music in general. Like
music
if
in
you have a
general.
project or something, you had multiple ways of getting money for that, not just like twice a year and then maybe. It's like, no, every month there's another chance to go to one or the other. And it's also high competition, so it's not that is then insured, but so it just seemed very possible to actually do your own stuff. And that's maybe something that when people ask me the difference between certain cities, it's like in Berlin, everybody gets a chance to reinvent the wheel. So you are constantly on the verge of just, try something new, try something weird, try something. And that's great because at the end of the day, that gives a lot of space for people who want to be themselves and not just be like a band member or a sideman. You know, and if you only want to do this, which is totally fair, it's a hustle in itself. Then there's enough gigs for that as well. You know.
Yeah, because the apparatus is big enough. To accompany actually all this. And I want to ask you, like, I mean, we brushed into it quite quickly, but I want to ask, when did music enter your life, and when did you understand this is what you want to do? Because you said you started singing when you were small.
I was very small, like singing very early, and then I went into theater, which introduced me into jazz, funny enough. Like, because I was doing theater as a child, I got introduced to also improvisation within theater, and through the people I met there that came from all over the world, and even like toured when I was 10 in a theaters, a festival with people like groups from Papua New Guinea and Tibet and us, and we were in like France. And this experience when you're 10 and touring and then getting inspired by, it's literally like exercises that you do sometimes to warm up to, at the end of the day, feel the room, feel the stage, feel the other one in front of you. It's kind of a way of improvising, you know, improvising within space, right? And this improvisation became inspiring for me. And then I started to fall in love with jazz because I thought it was super cool somehow. Like, and I never listened really to it, but I always liked the fact of this jazzy, smoky sound. And maybe if I now think back,
the heroin also, right?
The heroin and the drugs, you know.
Exactly.
So when I was in rehab when I was 12, you know, it's like I recovered now. Hi, Mom. I'm good now. It's like, what?
It's like that joke, like an 11-year-old girl comes to her mom and she says, "Hey, Mom, do you have a cigarette?" And she's like, "You're smoking?" She's like, "After good sex, I always smoke." And she's like, "You're having sex? How am I going to pay for the heroin then?" Anyway, sorry, that's just
good.
Stupid.
I like that.
Stupid joke.
Hi, Mom.
So, but it's the smokiness, the heroin, jazz.
I'm also like, again, like I'm a vocalist, and now I forget it sometimes because my voice is now very trained and under control. But I used to have an extremely rough voice as a child, like very low, very crispy, very haze, kind of by default. Like
really,
really, kind of like
as a child.
Yeah. No, it's
like a divorced, like a 60-year-old
someone said like,
divorced.
"What happened to this child?" It's actually a funny thing because like I looked like this tiny little, super white blonde hair, you know, like it's like angel-like, and then the moment I opened my mouth, people
"Hey,
got
mama."
No, seriously, and people was like, "Oh my god," they really thought like freaking devil like took over my body or something because it was like, hi, it was like, because my voice was super low, like if not as low as now. It's just been like, what is wrong with this child? Yeah. But then, of course, people's like, "Oh, this is like Janis Joplin," and it's like, it's okay, whatever. And then all of a sudden, these comparisons because of this kind of fucked up voice.
Not
but
Jabba the Hutt, Janis Joplin. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, well, whatever they knew in East Germany, right?
Yeah.
Not everything made it over to that side of the country, just to say. You know, and this is like a little bit where I think the character of your voice became, has this interesting voice. And I, at this point, also could, you know, sing, like keep the pitch. And so I was very happy for that, even though I had no control over it and constantly was haze because I was just screaming and laughing too much as well. So that's a little bit where this then got picked up also by the theater people. And all of a sudden within theater, I did my thing. But whenever someone had to sing, I became the person who sang or the person who impersonated someone from the cabaret or whatever it was.
When did you start getting your formal training in that sense? When, like really like, voice training, all
Right.
that stuff. Yeah. When
Well,
did
it's
that
a
come into the picture?
funny, yeah, it's an actually interesting and very impactful experience. I started doing this when I was 14, 15 or something. I had piano lessons way earlier, but someone says like, yo, if she wants to do this for real, she might need to actually, start having training, because at some point there's only as much you can do. So I found a teacher in the place where we lived, and of course this is for a family that doesn't really have money or is trying to count every penny. It's a big investment, but they made it work, and we gambled the price down because she saw something in me, the one that I then started having lessons with, that later became a very traumatic experience, because at the end of the day, I started when I was 15, I stopped when I was 17, and it started being super inspiring and really as a singing teacher myself, that there's always a big trust in coming to someone at this age and, trying your passion and figure out where this goes. And she saw a very big talent in me and tried to hook me up with an actual agency in the States back then, and wanted to actually put me in a management contract, and saw this big girl group kind of hype. Let's put her over,
Right.
talk to the parents and see if we can actually bring her over to the States. And that thing became something where I think for the first time I really felt my gut warning me about something is extremely off here, because it's she was super important to me, kind of the most important person during this stage of teenage years at this point. But then turned this whole thing around about you got this, and it's we have this opportunity here and blah blah blah, and became very pushy towards the end, to the point where we even had where my dad, from all the people in my life, he actually sensed it himself. He always had a very strong gut feeling when something is off. And they actually had them over, her and the husband, and kind of one glass, another glass, kind of almost
To take it out.
to figure out what the hell their plans are. And then it turns out that they were just on this weird mission to kind of convince them that I should stop my school and kind of really just put everything on the card. And I at some point decided to say no, because I realized me and my mom were just completely manipulated by this being we had the spotlight all of a sudden, this is something big, and we, and then my dad actually called it out, and I decided that I wanted to not go further into that, which became this huge fallout, which was super traumatic for me. And then I was just fuck singing teachers, fuck lessons in the first place. And then I went on a ramp. I just started smoking and joined rock bands and just screamed the hell out of my voice and just said I don't need anybody, get out of my face.
Wow.
And had a phase where I didn't want to actually take voice lessons at all. And also became very...
Did you ever tell that person that? Did you ever confront them about this? Which effect it had on you?
Yeah, we did when we kind of had the breakup in a way. There was a breakup hang, and also shortly after, and she's still convinced that she didn't meant to do one or the other, and I was just on something else, because I also told her I would like to study jazz at some point, because I was really the way I work is
what are you, a crackhead? Yeah.
Nah, but it's also more she didn't like the fact that I wanted to study more, because the more I study, the more I'm locked into, the more I can't just come over with her and kind of do this new because they saw money also in this project, right?
Yeah.
So, and the longer I stay in school, the further away this plan goes. So they were very no, is that whatever, kind of almost talked me out of it.
That sounds predatory, man.
Very. And I think in retrospect, when someone asked me why I went so all in jazz, it's almost that was a little bit was my rebellion against everybody. It's I told myself as a child, when I'm grown up enough and I'm mature enough, but that I want to study jazz, because for me it was always this it's when you can actually be in a bar, and and I always thought it was kind of sweet. There was a sweetness to it that and in a depth actually. There was very I felt it was deep music that I needed to grow up for in order to really, or not even knowing what that meant, but for me it was when I'm older I do this. And then I just went into this whole thing of I went obsessive about it, and and then it as a musician yourself. Entrance exams become competition becomes adrenaline and highs and lows and and failed the first time, and that made me an even harder worker, so that I didn't won everything. The second year I could then choose where I wanted to study, and then I chose Berlin, because of the city and the people who were there, and that was just insane 4.5 years. Told myself jazz is the only real music to really like. Because I thought I was late. That's the thing, is like I thought I should not tell anybody that I actually came from all this other stuff and all these other genres.
Which is your power.
Which is my total, and the stuff that I love now. But
right.
back then I thought like, oh shit, I'm like, I need to really, really hurry up now because I have all these years that I just did everything else but that.
How was the Jazz Institute in Berlin? How was it? Because you were in the generation still of Kurt Rosenwinkel, right? And like teachers that are coming from the States.
Yeah. I remember as an artist that I felt I was amongst the best people I could be around with for the sake of art and for what they brought to the table. It's as if you go to the States, and what I always loved about the States is you get lessons from these legends, like people who define a genre. Like Kurt Rosenwinkel is an amazing influencer for guitar players. Like he just reinvented how guitar sounds, and David Friedman, who was kind of a little bit the founder of this thing, he did the same for his instrument on the vibraphones, and there were all these like names who kind of made an impact, and that to me was a very sacred thing to be in, because I felt like, and also hide everything else, because I felt like I'm really dealing with something very precious here. So I remember the time for myself. It's like, yeah, this is amazing. But for my brain, coming from a German-trained education, it was also amazing because I could just continue my path of like nail. Yeah. Other people who I met who came from Denmark, this was like culture shock, because there, the way you study and the way you're with people is one thing, but then you come here and it's just like freaking insane. So I think, to be fair, for me, it was good. For other people, it was kind of intense. And then on top of that, then afterwards realizing why, because people had different experiences with certain people, made it complicated, of course, Yeah. But it was still a good decision for me, a very important one, because my entire career after that, even though I drifted to all these other things that I do, are founded in that. Like Berlin and the Jazz Institute became the roots for everything that started to grow. Like, now I'm actually teaching at the UDK, which is where Jazz Institute is. So it's kind of interesting to go back to where you studied and realize, what it's. I'm not necessarily only I'm not teaching at the Jazz Institute, but in the mother university of what it is, And that, of course, comes because of the content.
Music and singing, or
yes, voice and pop and jazz. So, which I like, because again, like being genre crossover for me, I actually like to do to have a variety of styles that I can do.
Was the Jazz Institute very dogmatic in that sense?
Super traditional. Very. It's like if people came from all over the world, because it was one of the few institutions that was so hardcore, only jazz. No pop, no rock, no, only jazz.
No, when you say only jazz, we're talking like bebop.
Bebop.
Constantly consuming it, hard bop later and all that. Okay.
Yeah,
knowing 500 standards.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
All that, yeah.
No, they prepared you for the Wild West outside.
For the cruise ship that you're going to work in.
And then there's a reality when you actually finally get out of it, and you're just like, really? Really? That. But yeah, there's one of these like, you have to prepare all these standouts. And I'm just like, to then end up actually not singing them. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of a mischaracterization, because I actually do now see why this made sense if you want to do it this way. Like, it is a jazz institute for a reason, because good jazz players come out of there because they're not blurred by everything else. It's more for someone like me. I had to really train for that, and I became really good because I'm a good worker, but it didn't come easy to me. So everything I had to really work hard for. So I became a really good side reader for a singer, but that's because I didn't know how to, and where other people just go blank and say, I don't need it for something. I'm just like, no, I suck at this, so how do I become good at this? I always know how to work.
Yeah.
Very structured in a way. So for me, it was a good time. It was more afterwards where it became hard. It's like, how do you untrain that if you actually realize you need space now again for everything else?
Yes.
And it took longer than expected.
Yeah.
As in like, not age-wise or something, but just like, I thought it would just be like, oh, I'm tired of jazz. Let me just... Yeah, but it's not. It's like, it's not just listening. It's like, how do you embody it? How do you let go of that training mentality? And also, as an artist in jazz, how do you then really make music and not just nail? Because we can all nail. But the more you write yourself, the more you're really seeking for people who are able to listen. And I've recently started a project where I realized it's the first time I meet people highly trained, but they were just able to just play exactly what was needed. No show off. There was also 2 guitarists on top of that who never, like, ego city anyways, but who had no ego, like who had big egos, but they were just hungry for sharing it with the other one, sharing the love for it, and then like embracing my composition styles and then finding a sound together. I'm just like, most of the time I sat there, I'm just like, wait a second, I can just actually...
You don't have to control everything. Yeah. You can just let artists
I can
be
let,
artists,
we can just let this breathe and actually just get together. And I was really shocked of how much I needed that and how tired we are in a place like Berlin as well after a while. Because people are nailers and it's good, but it's like, you need to look a little bit for the ones who can sit down and work for multiple hours without getting paid for the right reason.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to put in this time without getting paid when all of a sudden the bills have to be paid, or, you know, you're becoming a parent or whatever the real reasons are, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a very sacred thing now, and I'm very happy that I'm diving into this phase. That's a long answer to why, you know.
What was the question even?
I actually forgot, but it's good.
No, it's
good.
good.
I feel like it's gonna be a lot like that. You know?
No, I like
Jazz
it. I like
Institute,
it.
Jazz
I like
Institute.
it. No, I like it. I like
Predators.
it. It's good. It's good. Predators, sexual. No.
It's gonna go. Hi, mom.
No, but you're finishing the Jazz Institute, and then what happens afterwards? Because you say you have this thing all of a sudden like crisis, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what is happening?
Well, first I was super high because I was like, I mean, not in taking drugs and stuff, but more like I finished school. I have this cool new project that actually is more like a rockish kind of band. We released in Rope-A-Dope in the States, our album. And then we play a release tour. And in the same year, I go on tour with another big band. And then in the same year, and we're traveling, like we're actually in Tel Aviv during this time as well.
Oh, cool.
And it was an incredible experience to be there with that and like that, and to see how...
Tel Aviv, woohoo! Yeah.
I really...
Party, huh?
Yeah. It was...
Party.
I was there, and it was just like one of these funny thing of like... It was so beautiful and peaceful. It's kind of heartbreaking to now see all these pictures, also from back then, you know, but again, yeah.
When was that? Which
That was
year
in
was that?
2019 in spring.
19, okay.
I mean, whatever, peaceful. I think things were still happening, but for us, it was like, you know, it was not a problem to travel there. There was never felt unsafe or of any kind. But and the people were amazing, just really nice. And then from there, we went to Canada, and from there back to like New York. So we just toured like crazy. And then I came back.
Were people taking pictures with you?
In where?
In Israel? Just randomly?
I don't
Like
remember
blonde,
that.
blue-eyed girl. Because I was walking with Madelon, like in the market, and they just stopped her and took pictures with her. And I was just like, what is...
Well, we were also like a very big group. So I think maybe it's a little bit like coming into a group, taking pictures of all these girls. I don't know if that would have been so smart. I think they saw that we were on a mission. Yeah, no, back then I had I had a little bit of a different appearance. I was like Berlin undercut, side cut. I think I might have even had pink hair or something.
So like
a little bit bigger.
Punky.
A little bit, yeah. I had my punky face.
Funky, okay.
I had my late teen lived through with my 20s, I think. It's like, this is when rebellion happened.
Yeah, because we talked about, because you had to grow up pretty quick, right? You felt that you had to grow up. Tell me more about it. I'm interested.
Well, so we basically moved to Germany because of financial problems. And my father gets a new job opportunity in Germany.
So your dad went through some type of bankruptcy in that sense?
In Denmark he did, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, exactly, and he lost the house and everything where we lived till I became 2.
How old were you when all this is going down?
Like the first time I was 2. While my father was trying to get his stuff together in another country again, then we lived with friends for 3 months or something. I obviously don't remember this because I was young, but when you're trying to like go back and figure out why you have patterns that you have now, I'm pretty sure that things started to become very clear that this is a little bit of a survival marathon.
It sounds also like when you don't know something, you have to go all in.
No, it's almost like manic in a way, you know. And then she gets pregnant with my brother, my little brother, 4 years when I was 4, and then because of that, they end up doing the move, like because the family was starting to fall apart from long distance. Because I did this for 3 years, and said like, let's see if this is, we need to close it in order for this to work. And because actually my dad, he kind of was traveling back and forth between Denmark and Germany, I think for 3 years every weekend, coming on a Friday, leaving on a Sunday, kind of thing. And it's just but non-stop, no complaining, no nothing. Like, he was a very hard worker. He was the first one there, the last one to leave. He loved working. He was obsessed with working. It's just a little bit, it's heartbreaking that it never worked out, if that makes any sense, because he had the motivation for it. Anyway, so and then when this happened, they moved to Germany because he got a job situation, and she needed to see if this could be something. And I remember her saying, like, I'm not going to stay here just for this year, because everything was super gray and really depressing still. Like, nothing was renovated like it is now.
Right.
And then the rest is, in a way, history. And it just piled up good moments, chaos, even to the point where I remember being excited. Oh, now I can pack my stuff again. It became this weird thing of like, oh, we move into another place. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of looking forward to pack things up again, to move somewhere. Like... And in retrospect, it's because...
Kids have an amazing ability to just survive in these situations.
Absolutely. And it's a little bit like, obviously, there's a lot that I now in retrospect realize that, as someone who has become very observant of my environment, I'm also the older sister. My dad then got another job in Istanbul then, so it was this constant thing with like my mom alone, but she was completely dependent on him. He tried everything he could, but at the same time, you were never really sure what was true, what was not, and not really a lot of communication, obviously, was going on, because it's just way too complex, and so that became a very rooted thing of like, I was very aware of how is everybody doing, like making sure that my mom is okay, making sure he is okay when he's there, my brother, of course, but and then music happened, and that became so crazy to see how this just made everybody happy. Like, once I realized, like, oh, this is this music thing that she has this talent, then everything was about this, So I actually recently had a pretty big revelation, also a little bit went a little bit of a crisis with regards to that, because I realized, like, what if I don't feel like it right now? Like, could I be okay with actually doing something else? And I think a lot has to do with, like, allowing myself to get the space to figure out what this is when I'm not doing this for anybody else but myself. And obviously it's not just that, and thank God they pushed everything, but when you have a setup where it's not necessarily healthy, and you see that they're suffering, and then this thing brings spark into their life and hope and motivation, it's a performing thing that all of a sudden becomes your strategy,
Coping mechanism, yeah.
And then becoming really good in school and really good, like, it became this shield of, oh, as long as Mia is good, so we're good, kind of thing,
I think it's great that you're facing these things right now, because you can wake up when you're 70 and start asking yourself these questions, and then your system is not fresh enough. I'm talking really your physicality is not fresh enough to deal with these existential questions of really who you are and what would you do, would you be without that identity of a musician.
And that happened pretty drastically in 2019, actually, also, because I went on tour. After that, I went for 4 months to China. Then I came back, and then let it be 2 months later or 3 months later, lockdown happened. So I was just having this like, oh, I finished school. I'm like touring. Oh, this is amazing. Life is just, and I just released a record and everything's great. And then everything falls apart, like on multiple levels, Just started a relationship, got stuck in Barcelona, a country, it's just all these things that are still yet to be discovering. And then losing my project because everybody starts to lose their, it just became so real. And everybody.
And you couldn't do anything about it.
You couldn't do anything about it. For someone who's a fixer, that was probably the hardest thing. It's like, I gotta do something, because I hate, like, I don't have problem facing problems or facing crisis. I hate when I just have to sit and look at it and can't even do something,
Could be that maybe something when you were helpless or let's say powerless when you were younger, could be that got manifested. You saw things happening around you couldn't do anything, and it was so negative that...
Yeah, it's also, for sure. But I also think, I don't even think it might be that deep. I just think, like, I've learned that, I can fix anything faster than anybody. So that's great. And that makes everybody happy again, you know?
Yeah, and that gave you meaning and
And
power.
it gave me meaning and power, and all of a sudden it became an addiction as well. Fixing, controlling. It's like you get, even though it's not good feelings, but that's what you know. So if that's what you do for the entire life, and that's how you grow up.
So
you know,
maybe
as
you
a
need to be a social worker.
Yeah, no.
And then you'll kill yourself.
I would just adopt everybody, and that's the problem, because my heart is also way too big to not be. I've figured out that I'm a very sensitive person, very empathetic as well. So to see people not in good shape, I would just probably open my doors and have them open.
What would you do actually if you didn't have music? If tomorrow you wake up and it's like, no, you cannot make music anymore.
I thought a lot about it. And I think I would still, I'm actually still thinking about if it would make sense to have a plan B, just because I also think it serves me for the creative process. I'll do something creative in sense of creating, for example, like I still think I would love to be in the creative world.
Yeah.
If I could. So I've been looking into what it means to become some sort of like how it would be to have your own agency that is covering multiple scenes, since I'm like also working with film and all the, it's just like something multidisciplinary, because that's something that I really start to love. And I think it's kind of the circle starts to finally actually round in with the latest stuff that I'm doing. I feel like the love for theater, the love for images, the love for costumes, the love for personification, and the creative part of putting something in a story is now kind of starting to come together when it's the music videos, or how we performed at this TEDx in Lisbon.
Because you directed the music videos, right?
No, I hired someone to do that. But it's just the idea was there, and we talked about it together. And I, of course, I was the last confirmation. Like I was the boss, but I hired people to help me put this to vision.
Producer. You produced it. Yeah. I think it's interesting because that comes up quite a lot in this podcast of very, very talented people are coming here, people that get gifted, people that work very hard. It's from plethora of so many different people. And what is interesting, the common denominator that I'm seeing is that people want to spread themselves out. They don't want to just stay in one lane, this is just what I can do. I think also it's kind of a human desire also, no? Yeah. Maybe? Yeah, and I think also it's kind of this feeling of that I have more to offer than just this. For me, I can say I was so focused on the piano and just music from a very young age, and it gets to a saturated point, and I wanted to, and then from the piano I started to go more into writing for bigger ensembles or orchestras and stuff. And eventually I got back to the piano and just recorded an album. It's going to be out around September, October. I think.
Solo one. The
solo one, yeah, exactly. And I was really asking myself, what is the story that I'm trying to tell? It's a story of my life that I'm trying to share something that is very human. But music is that medium for that. If I didn't have music, I would do it in a different way. I would be a chef, or I would be like even stockbroker. I don't know. But everything would be done in a creative way to expand. Absolutely. Like in my case, I had a crisis about this because I felt there was so much alone time that I wasn't prepared for, if that makes any sense, which is super important. But I ended up only being able to create my greatest work when I was just on the verge of losing it. And that became the story. It's like, when I'm feeling the worst, it's like, okay, now I write about it. And I also still have to say it is also not an uncommon theme, but I started to be a little bit like, I'm exhausted for having to have another mental crisis that almost breaks me. I don't know how much longer I want to be breaking down in order to create the way I wanted to create. Because and does it have to happen?
And does it have to feel so bad all the time? It's a little bit like I just realized like I was starting to experience life differently. I started a relationship. I was in another country, and there was just also people who just enjoyed themselves, and I was just a little bit like, why is it so hard for me to just enjoy myself? Like, what is the whole, why is it all about hustle, and why can't I and part of this is also because I think like I've just been like continuing this whole machine of like one thing is surviving, the other thing is realizing it works, and then realizing it works actually pretty well in a Western world where it's like, especially Germany, it's all about delivery. Like there's no like, oh, let's go to the beach. It's like, no. Stay busy because the weather is shitty and you better have a meaning, and that's all based on your work. Not just Germany, I think, is a Western world situation. But the moment you get down to Spain, you realize like, oh, you can't get anything done because it's siesta and they don't give a hell about your timing, you know? And it's actually interesting to have to learn acceptance, you know? All I need is transparency from anybody that I deal with. I don't need this like, oh, it's a little bit here and there. It's like, no. I mean, I understand.
Could be with your parents. Maybe it was like loss of status or something. That
sure, no. It's also he was also older than my mom, so different generation and grew up differently. And his entire identity was about providing and work. So when all of this falls apart, like, yeah, no shit, you have an identity crisis. But you still are part of a family unit, so your crisis becomes everyone's crisis, you know. And
are you okay with talking about like the whole process of after burying him and everything? What we
sure,
talked about it?
We can do that.
Yeah, what we talked about. Like,
I might shitstorm a little bit on Germany, but whatever. We can do that.
It's all good. Because you said something very interesting that he passed away a year ago. Yeah. Like in our private conversations, he passed away a year ago, and you got into this whirlwind of fixing things, cleaning up. How was that? What was the...
It was something I knew would happen and something I thought I was prepared for. And the lesson learned is like, even for someone like me who's just over prepared, I was not prepared at all for what was happening. Because what happened is like, I mean, every time I tell the story, I feel like I need to make a movie, like, and make it a kind of heavy comedian Danish movie, because it's so bizarre. That when I talk about it, sometimes it just like I start laughing because it's so like when you see people's faces just like get wider and wider, and sometimes it's like they think it's a lie, you know. What happened is like, so he, the year was tumultuous. He had another heart attack that he felt like was put into a coma. That all happened when I was just starting mixing my record. So I was mixing during the day, then traveling to the hospital to see if he will make it, and everybody said, like, this is impossible that he will make it.
How long ago was that?
That was August the previous year before, so 24.
23.
Was it 20? No, August 20. I released 24. No, you're right. I mixed my album 23. This is when he got sick, you're right. And then he miraculously came back again, which he always did. And we're just like... You really don't want to go, you know?
Like a cat.
As he's like a cat, you know? But this time it was like tremendous, like it was very hard for his brain. So it actually affected him, but we didn't know yet how. So he ended up doing this time when he was in a coma, being fired from his jobs, which I didn't know that you could do, but I guess you can.
Really? He was in a coma and he lost?
He was in a coma, so his worker fired him. So while he was in a coma, tried to then... work with a lawyer to defend him in court with his so that happened while he was just there not being with us. So that was first thing that happened. Then the other part happened that he woke up, and then it was the question of like his apartment. He then started to lose his apartment. All these things falls apart. You have to fix that. And thank God to also my mom, who was, even though they haven't been together for multiple years, was a big help in all of this. And my little brother, a huge help, because I was in Barcelona at this point because I studied. And then they were trying to figure out where to put him after that. And the short story is he ended up then spending the last 6 months in a home, which was really beautifully done, and trying to get back on his feet. And more you realize there's a little bit of a dead end to it, you know? And that he was not really able to get faster in his brain, even though he wanted to. So yeah, the day... So the last day when I see him, he has a very, very strong, like, vision. He really looks me in the eyes. It's the last time I see him after my release concert. And I just realized, like, fuck, this was a different look. Like, he was just like, something happened. And I cried as if I kind of already lost him, but I didn't know what it was because I've never lost someone. So it turns out that was his way to say goodbye afterwards, because it took 2 more days or something, and then he was gone. And it was kind of a crazy thing, because what happens is when people are ready to die, they just get this spark again. They just like wake up, and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, you were really there and very talkative to my mom. And so we just thought, like, is he really going to get back on his feet again, you know? And then he fell asleep, and thank God didn't suffer. He just fell asleep and had the chance to just stay there. But then the shitstorm happened because obviously he dies, and then everybody's super ready to just get in touch with you and try to fuck you up because he left a mess that was unbearable to really even like overview, like obviously. So there was not dead problems. Like that was kind of the least of our problems because you can just say I don't want any of his belongings and then you're okay with debt. But in Germany they hunt you down for his debt. As like when we say no,
they transfer it to the next
generation, even to the point where it's like the kids of someone's third, second generation somewhere will then be like talked to, right? So they really try to kind of get down to this just by law.
That is a crazy concept, crazy, because they sell the debts to collecting companies, and basically you're in the situation where you're going to negotiate your debt. You can negotiate it in a ridiculous way. Like you can. Yeah. We are in a complete deficit. The economy is in complete deficit anyway. Yeah. Everything is one big debt. When they come and they try to grab this debt, it's crazy.
And for us, it's a little bit like, okay, we at least know we're out of it, me and my brother. And then what happens is like, because he left so much chaos, we couldn't just go to a funeral center and say we would like to organize something because there was nothing to organize it with. It's just me and my brother. We're like 32 and 28. It's like, what the hell, you know? So the spiral rolls, and then there's systems for like social, like when you don't have the cash, you can apply for help to get like some sort of like whether he gets burned and buried. And we did the whole process and everything was very nice. But then they basically ran us over because once it's not done in the beautiful little like churchy way, they really know how to get money out of you. And we were an easy target because we were young and we had nothing, and we were just lost our dad, and very happy that someone was invested in that for once, so that we don't have to stand with it alone. And then this turns into a shit show because they can't really burn him because they don't know his status yet, because in his papers it said like he is a widow, but he never married someone that died. And I'm just like,
how is he a widow?
Exactly. No, this is like, I'm waiting for some sort of paper from the mafia somewhere to say like, oh, we're very sorry to hear that our best friend and family member died. Because I'm just like, this man has had so many secrets.
Are you thinking also other kids and stuff?
No, I think that I would have known. No, he has another son that we're in touch with, and I think he just figured out a way to mungle his way through the system by faking something. Because at the end of the day, we said like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give you a name of a dead wife because we don't have it. There is no, oh yeah, but we need something because he was married to the first child's mom. And so the big thing was like, yeah, we had to get back to my older brother to tell his mom if she still has the divorce papers from like over 40 years ago, so that he could at least, so that I can say divorced, which we then figured out within a day, which normally takes like forever, you know, speaking of fixing. And then we ended up getting into some sort of a fight because they just wanted to run us over. Then the application didn't work because we're Danish, and it didn't, you know, and all of a sudden it became this nationality thing. I'm just like, hold on 1 second. We lived here for over 30 years. We did everything paid. I mean, he wasn't a citizen of example, but he paid his social security. We should be okay with, you know, but then it's like option 1, you could pay this in Czech, he can be buried in Czechoslovakia. Option 2, and this, I'm just like, what the hell?
What?
Exactly. I'm just like, no. This is no go. And then the people in Denmark started to hear of this. And then all of a sudden, the government in Denmark and the people responsible was like, well, what's happening down there? These poor kids, they felt so bad about it. It's family that then talked to colleagues, and it's like, what can we do? Because it started to be like 2 months in, like we weren't getting any closure of some sort, you know? In the meantime, they had to burn him because of, I guess, health reasons, I don't know. Which we also didn't. They cremated him. We didn't get a notification, even though they probably have to do this. But it's a little bit like, couldn't you at least say, by the way, this is what we, you know, it's all of a sudden it became super insensitive. And then we said like, stop. And then Denmark took over. Denmark said he's still a Danish citizenship. Make sure that we can just get his leftovers and just send back to Denmark. And everything became very sweet. And like the Danes are, speaking of the difference. Hi, we are this and this from there and there. We're just calling to see about like, you know, this person's ashes. And then the other one in German is like, I'm not going to tell you anything. Just giving the full on like, because she was getting fire from our lawyers who are now on their case because like, no. This body goes all the way back now. So they didn't want to tell us where he was. So my mom was going into Sherlock Holmes mode, trying to figure out where this urn was, found the urn, sent it back to Denmark, and we could then finally start planning ahead, you know? And
And how
doing
long
this?
all of that is taking place? Like,
So he died in April, and end of April, and I think it was like
2024. 24, you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
last year. I think it
Yeah.
happened in August or something. And in all of this time, you're still just
So
cleaning
4
up, figuring,
months of limbo and
cleaning the apartment, figuring out. It's just like at some point it was just, and it's a shame because it's like I see how people can say goodbye in a very real way. It's actually beautiful. And it's a little bit unfair again that you like. I found myself being just like again, even after it's like I was happy I had the moments with him before he passed away, that to feel connected with him at least. But the experience to me was just like everybody out of my face, like what the hell? But again, I was used to it, so it's almost became this like, you know, it's also distraction from everything else that was happening. You know,
Yeah,
take a break
yeah.
from this, just fix this now. You know.
Yeah.
And then it fucked with the finances, of course. You're trying to get back on the feet. Then as a musician, as you know, it's just like at some point there's just a limitation to how much space you have to sit there and grieve, because you also need to continue your life at some point. You know,
Yeah.
the gigs are waiting, the concert, you still need to. So you get back on your feet, but it takes a while. And then a year after that, on his first death anniversary, I realized it's the first time I just could grieve. It was hard. And that put me into a spiral of questioning everything. It's like almost like when someone says grief is not linear, it's like, yeah, it's definitely not.
No,
And it goes
so-
all the way back again, all over again.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story talking about grief and like life and death. If I told it in a podcast, we did more than 20, I don't remember. But I apologize if you hear it again. But so my mother passed away on the 4th of October 2014, and it was like long week of being with her in the hospital. She was in a coma, and it was like all traumatic, and we were around her bed. I remember that it was that fear of like she's gonna die, like that.
And you were kind of young as well, end of 20s or something,
I was
right?
20. Yeah, I was 27.
Yeah.
I was 27.
Like my brother.
Yeah, 27. Yeah, and it just and just seeing the entire family dynamics. Like my father is a very strong person, you know, to a certain extent. He went through extreme situations in his life, but when it comes to family, he's very soft, you know. So he's trying to keep this like strong person I can keep for everybody, and like falling apart and
Of course.
losing control and all that. So it was like he was oscillating, and I just came back from Amsterdam. And like I came to visit, and I was there, and we spent 6 days in the 6 days in the hospital, and we are doing a circle around her bed, which like let's say the terminally ill, it's a crazy department in the hospital. It's
Yeah.
really crazy because they're going to die, these people.
And
It's
everybody
not-
knows it, yeah.
It's just a matter of is it going to happen today or tomorrow, and we're all sharing this like traumatic
Yeah, for
experience, and the doctors are completely desensitized.
Yeah.
Completely, they're
Well,
like
they have to probably, right?
was-
Otherwise you can't do it.
my dad was like, no, you have to. Come on, just push her chest. It was like, man, I'm gonna break her ribs. Like
Yeah.
the doctor was like, I'm gonna break her ribs. It's gonna do nothing. She's gonna die in 10 minutes. He just told him like that. I just looked at my dad. Just looked at him. And was like, yeah, I gotta go to the next one. You know, it was just
Wow.
this, yeah, insane, right? So we're like around her bed, and we see the heart monitor just dropping. You know, 60, 50, 40 until like flatlining. She died. And we're all just devastated. We're going down my dad's, going into his Navy SEAL officer, like, okay, family, this is what's going to happen. I'm like, dude, can't you just, for once,
in it, yeah.
just break, you know? And we go down, like, we take the body, we go down with the elevator, and we sit there, and then my dad starts with like, okay, listen, we need to talk about the funeral and this, you know, he goes into like planning and, you know, like, operation mode, you know. And then a student comes in, he's like, "Oh, sorry, I was wondering if I can take the retina of," and then he was like reading her name wrong. You know, it was just Vered. Can I please for studies? And then it hit me there. I was like, we're experiencing a tragedy right now. We lost our mom, but life continues. That
Yeah.
medical student needs
still
to
needs
get something. He needs to
Absolutely.
do that. And then it hit me and I realized, wow, life is so much stronger than death in that sense because it continues moving. She's dead. She's never going to come back.
Yeah.
We need to clean up. We need to get a grave for her. There's a thing called Shiv'ah in Judaism, which is like 7 days of mourning. Everybody sits
Right.
together and experiencing the mourning. So we have to start planning for that because we're going to get
People come.
hundreds, if not thousands of people, because she was a prominent figure in the education
Right.
system in Israel. I was like, and then when I got out of the hospital, I was like diehard vegetarian, vegan, like, you know.
You just needed meat then, right?
And I was like, let's get some shawarma now. Now. I need some death in my mouth now.
Oh,
It was
that's
one of the
funny.
best shawarmas ever.
Ever since you never returned, right?
No, I did keep it. No, the carnivore came later.
Okay.
Carnivore came in the last couple of years, but no, it felt so good. I felt so bad
sure.
afterwards. Like, oh, but what have you done with your morals? You can just eat cats and that's it.
Oh my god, it became so dark. But I was because it's so absurd. And at the end of the day, it's like the most beautiful thing is to realize that you have to be in it and go out and experience life, even though it hurts like crazy. Because I was always scared of crying and breaking.
So you almost broke down and cried here.
Yeah, because it's like,
good.
of course, it's like it's the most beautiful and the most painful thing you can do. Look someone in the eyes before they die. It's like,
Yeah.
you know. But at the same time, yeah, why not? It's the most understood crisis of them all. You lost a parent or you lost someone you love. It's like
Absolutely.
everybody would understand. And I just
Absolutely.
didn't know that this is a thing,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't know if it happened to you, but it kind of opened up to new relationships that also sometimes became so much deeper because they weren't my best friends or because they weren't my partner, because they were, because I put all this, what people need to do or not need to do. And all of a sudden I just realized like, it's so different from day to day and you need to talk to people who might have the capacity for it because it's a lot, it's heavy, And I funneled it actually into music. Like I combined it for my master's final thesis and I did like I call it 5 stages, it was about the 5 stages of grief and I tried to incorporate it into like a piece where it was like with spectralization sounds
Was it
and
sex, drugs, social media?
and rock and roll.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and Facebook. Zuckerberg, you Zuckerberg.
Fuck.
Yeah, but and I realized at the end of the day, it's like I was scared to going back to university after that because I was feeling it's just bizarre. And the first day was also horrible because you're just there and you just suffer and everybody's just also a little bit like just trying to be really sweet but giving you the space and you don't know if you need space or if you need more hugs.
Hey, hi.
Yeah, not even. They were just there. Yeah. I was also the only girl. Maybe that kind of didn't help at this point. It was just, and they were all sweet. It's not that, but it was just bizarre. And the second day was still bizarre, but then the third day I was actually happy that things just continued.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson learned. And that's the lesson that's going to continue to learn because it's at the end of the day, it's like my next crisis will happen for some other reasons, and it has to. We're artists, we're musicians, we need those. I think like the hope is that so that creation isn't dependent on that. So that crisis becomes a help to transform. And it actually worked because I sat down the other day and just wrote a song sweetly. I mean, it's still also a little bit heavy if you ask me for my motivations, but the sounds became lighter. It's almost like after that I needed less. I needed transparency. I needed back to like really freaking acoustic, which I never did. And it's a little bit, I think it's just a little bit learning how it feels to just be super transparent. And just do what's needed, which has nothing to do with these people out there. It's just what I need right now. Because it's beautiful. And if you can then share it in the space, and I think I got very sensitized to the energies of people in a band context as well. You need to have people around who give you the capacity to breathe.
Yes.
And you need to allow yourself to find those. And that's might take a second. And it will shift, and all of the stuff, it takes time. I think I'm just a highly impatient person. I want to fix everything right now, like as in yesterday. So when it comes to stuff that is like this, that just needs the time, it's the learning process. Like, it's like,
Exactly.
it's like anxiety.
Yeah, we said that the pictures we're gonna do for the podcast
just like,
show. It's gonna be like like this.
Just like on a roller coaster, like hair all over the place. And you know what helped also? Humor.
Humor, yes.
You gotta laugh.
You're a funny girl.
You gotta laugh at some point.
I can throw some ridiculous, absurd stuff at you, and you just roll with it.
Well, I'm from Denmark, and I'm from this family, and I'm also with someone from New York that has a little bit of that spirit. I think the training helps, but.
What would be the advice you would give yourself from Mia that is just finishing the Jazz Institute? If you could sit with yourself and have a cup of coffee.
As in like knowingly what came, or as in like...
As in having all the experience, having everything that you have right now, all the data, everything, what would you tell her?
Don't take it for granted. Ever. Ever. Don't take your voice working for granted. Don't take traveling for granted. Don't take capacity for granted. Don't take health for granted. It's just like at some point, it's like now with everything on top, with like pandemic and loss, and just enjoy the moment and be really aware that you cannot take this for granted ever.
Yeah, so actually practice more gratitude, right?
Yeah, and also but I'm also like, I practice my ass off to get strong with my voice. So I got very, very secure with it and could really trust it. And I'm happy about it, but, when things hit the fan, I felt it was very hard to use it. Not as in like technical voice. It's just like every note sung was just opening up for another crying hour. It's just like, Yeah. And it's an outlet. It's good, but it's also like some people lose their voice with trauma or with accidents or surgeries or medication. It's one of these things. Just like don't take it for granted. Also, don't make another 5-year plan of ensuring your voice. Like there's also it's healthy to be smart about it, but I think I became very aware of how important music was and how much I took it for granted, especially during pandemic. And also afterwards when I used it as a healing outlet. It's like, don't judge it that it's dark. Enjoy that you can be in the darkness, that you actually like it.
Exactly.
And
then you get that gift of being able to experience that.
Oh, and I can write a song about the loss. This is the best therapy ever. Like I'm thinking about what do people do who don't have that? And I can talk and I can cry and I can repeat what I just said because I need it in a way, it's like, and I have a family that can be in it that is very on that side as well. Sometimes a little too much. It's like they love to talk about their emotions. It's good, but sometimes we all need to say, all right, let's just now walk or something.
They like to nibble in the emotion.
No, my mom's side is very talkative in that sense. It's good. I have a good mix of both. Like I am like this as well, but I also have a lot of my father who was the opposite. It's like almost like I spoke to your wife before. That it's like I'm almost rediscovering an introvert version of me that I didn't know I had because I was always the extrovert. And I was like, what? Oh my God, I got everything wrong about myself. That's amazing,
But I don't know if you got everything wrong about yourself.
No, I'm joking, but I'm just like...
You just saw an angle of yourself that is very specific for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The perspective, the perception that you had about yourself was specific, you can say dogmatic, single-minded, or, coming
maybe
from...
also age-related. That's the other part.
Coping mechanisms, experiences, traumas, tools that you have in that moment. It's... for instance, what happened yesterday was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious.
But you know what's hilarious?
One of the most absurd things. It never happened to me. So basically...
Neither to me. I'm like a control freak. How could this happen? So, I found it healthy, but I felt bad for you because of my poor guy.
No, I was really like... what happened is that I was supposed to pick you up in Amsterdam Central.
Oh my God.
And I arrived to Amsterdam Central. I was like, okay, well, I don't want you to wait because you're getting off the train and... And you're like, hey, I'm here next to the buses. And I'm just like, buses? I'm in the Stationplein. Like, just it's one of the most famous central stations in the world. Just come out
It's
in
so
Amsterdam, you know?
embarrassing. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then it's like, okay, I'm here. I was
Where
like,
are
hey,
you?
should we share our live location? And she was in Hilversum. She was in a completely
Oh my God. It was like an
side
hour
of the
away.
country.
It's like, and I was just, you know what I thought I was very tired yesterday as well, I have to admit, but it's just like, I got off just like, oh, that's cute. Because what happens when you live in a place like Berlin, everything is smaller than Berlin anyway. So you don't even think about what people's main trace estate, like, and I was just like,
Hilversum is like some.
I know, it's
some
the
kiosk.
smallest. Because that's also like, I sat there and it was like very kiosky. And I feel like, oh, maybe that's just what it is.
And you're like, and you tell me, oh, it's so cute, small. I'm like, small, it's Amsterdam. There are like millions of people going through the station every single day.
Oh, and I was just like, holy crap. But then, of course, it's like,
And then when I opened the live location, I was like, what?
you thought it was like a
I
thing.
look at it and I'm like, wait. I'm like, what? Okay, wait, let it.
Let
I
it
do
load.
like this, let it load. I was just like, oh no, you are in Hilversum.
Well, I saw a lot about I saw a lot of the two ends of this station, which is literally all you get. And the people are funny. I'm just like, wow, But I was so in my head and so relaxed about traveling. That's the other part that for me,
You took it for granted, huh?
I took it all for granted. Not only did I arrive too early at the station in Berlin, thankfully was that order. But then just forgetting these things, like for me, it's like I'm starting to celebrate it a little bit because it shows me that I'm not in control. But then when it matters, you're like, okay, but next time, please, because it happened to me the other day as well. I kind of missed my bus because I read something else. It was like, it's not that it's it's not the first time traveling. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Like constantly, I just get so used to it and so comfortable in it. And it feels so home actually to be on the run somehow, and just to be driving. Like for me, I like that feeling. But then, really 30, almost 33, I can like do all these crazy things that I'm doing, but I can't even like catch a bus or get off on the right train station. That was amazing. This is when you realize your brain is equally a monkey brain. Doesn't matter how much you learn, how much you know, you're at the end of the day a monkey brain. Right? It just collapsed. Yeah.
Mia,
but we made it.
I really thank you for coming all the way from Berlin to do this. It's really,
I'm
I
happy
do not take it for granted at all. I really appreciate it. We're going to have a nice hang
Thank
tonight
you.
also.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to promote or?
Just my music, my projects. I think
all
it's
the links are
always-
going to be.
All the links are there. Okay, cool. No, it's new stuff is in the making, and just like I think the best way to keep up with that is like on Instagram. This is where I share the most updates, and otherwise my homepage. And music is in the making, and still will be in the making on both electronic basis and very acoustic ones. So.
Like how you're half jaded, like let's just check my music. Half like,
Bam, 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 bam.
come on, let's do it.
Exactly. It's like
Exactly.
I'm like a chihuahua, I think, no? It's a little bit like then have this tongue hanging out. On that note, right?
Mia Knop Jacobsen.
Oh, Sen.
Jacobsen, sorry.
I'm
Mia
joking.
Knop Jacobsen, thank you so much for joining
you.
this podcast. It was hilarious and touching and all in between. You out there looking at us, did you know that 95% of you, it was better, it was 99, but now it's 95% of you are not subscribed. Why? Why is that? Come on, subscribe to our channel, follow us, check everything that we're doing. We're bringing such interesting, beautiful people here to talk about their life so you can be reflected in their story also. Like, subscribe, and we're going to see you at the gig.